All right, so in this video, we're going to look at horizontal asymptotes and limits to infinity, but I want to make sure that you know that there's not really a difference because limits to infinity do define horizontal asymptotes, but you have to make sure that you're answering the question. So if you're looking at these first two questions, they're just limit questions. But notice that they're both going to either positive or negative infinity. So they do represent asymptotes. So for the first one, it's a rational function. You know the limit as x goes to negative infinity would be where its horizontal asymptote is. So we know that to find the horizontal asymptote of this function, the degree is, the top is 4, the degree of the bottom is 4. So we know it has a horizontal asymptote at negative 3 over 2, or 3 over negative 2. So we're done. That's the limit. For the next one, now this is a radical function. So it's just asking what's the limit as x goes to negative infinity. So we can use the process we learned in the previous video. The degree of the top is essentially 1 because it's the square root of x squared. It's not a polynomial, so I use that degree term loosely. The degree of the bottom is 1. So the degrees are essentially the same. So we're going to take the ratio of the leading coefficients. Be careful here. The leading coefficient of the top is the square root of 7. Leading coefficient of the bottom is 3. But we're approaching negative infinity. So what we learned from the last video is always make this the opposite. There you go. You're done with that one. Now, if the question were identify the horizontal asymptotes, you're going to go through the same process. You have to make sure you answer the question. So for this one, we already know what the limit as x goes to infinity is, or negative infinity, but we know because it's a rational function, it's the same both ways. So the answer is the same up top, except that horizontal asymptote is a horizontal line, so you need to say the horizontal asymptote here is y equals negative 3 over 2. For the next one, this one involves a radical, and it's asking for what's the horizontal asymptotes. Remember, this one possibly has 2. You've probably figured out by now it does have 2. You have to consider the limit as x goes to negative infinity for the left horizontal asymptote, which we already said is negative 7/3, or negative root 7 over 3. But as you go to positive infinity, let me fix this first. As you go to positive infinity, it would be, if I said this were a plus, you wouldn't have changed the sign. You wouldn't have taken the opposite. So on the right, its asymptote is root 7 over 3. Now, these are horizontal asymptotes, so write their equations. What I would do when you do these problems is now grab your calculator, graph this function, calculate what the approximate root 7 over 3 is. That should be like root 9 would be 3, which would be 1. So this is just under 1. Just make sure you have asymptotes that are just under or above negative 1 on the left and just below positive 1 on the right. So that's that. If you have any questions, let me know. And that's it for this chapter.